The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome to this month's webinar entitled Surprise and Delight Service.
We want to first start by thanking you for your understanding for last month's delay of broadcast. We're actually going to record that today. We had a family medical situation on my side, and we thank you all for your prayers and good thoughts and energy because Mark's on the mend. So thank you again for your understanding. And Lookup will be done this afternoon, so you'll be able to get a recording of that and view at your leisure. So, surprise and delight service. This is probably one of our favorite topics to talk about. And I think we're going to have some fun with this. Steve, do you want to start off with anything?
Well, I think just to frame surprise and delight service, I think that for a lot of the companies that have tried to go the extra mile, and a lot of salons that have tried to really develop service at an extraordinary level, it has almost become, it seems as though the guest feels entitled to that program, to that service. And I'll give you an example. There were many salons early on that had referral programs where you send me 4 clients and you'll get manicure, pedicure for free. Or you send me 2 clients and you'll get a 32-ounce shampoo for free. There were all these various programs. And what we found was, again, that sense of entitlement. I can't think of a single airlines right now who wouldn't give up their loyalty program because they've become something that people just expect. It's not a bonus anymore. It's just part of that one-to-one service. And so when I first heard this, and Terry and I first heard this surprise and delight, it threw a whole new light on exactly how we could take service to the next level. It's those moments when you almost you take the breath away from a guest. You do something that they didn't expect, whether it be an act of kindness, taking service to another level, really being the very, very best at what you do, and have that be something that is an absolute surprise to the guest, and that's the direction that we think service is going. So,
well, and I think the easy part about this is there's many companies that are doing the minimum because of the fact that customer service or heart-to-heart or eye-to-eye contact is lacking. It's really not that difficult to romance a customer compared to maybe 20 years ago with outstanding service ethics. Now they're very limited or generic, and so when you want to do something to romance and surprise and delight your guest, it's not that difficult now to stand out, and it can create some great noise for you rather quickly. So
I want to give an example, Terry, of something that's just happened recently, and it's so simple, but number one, it was memorable. Number two, it surprised me, and I enjoyed it, quite frankly. I visited a new business for the first time in our hometown of Shorewood. And the name of it is Nothing Bundt Cakes. I know it's hard for you to imagine that I would wander into a place that had delicious food. However, I did. And the first thing I noticed was they had these beautiful counters filled with bundt cakes, frosted, and everything looked delicious. And I noticed young girls, probably high school, maybe college age, but not much more than that. Typically the type of people, honestly, or the age group that I see in our schools. And as I walked in, one of the young ladies came around from the back of the counter and came out to greet me. And her dialogue, I knew, was scripted, but nonetheless, it was perfect. And the fact that she placed herself on my side of the counter was also quite enjoyable. And the first thing that she said was, "Is this your first trip to our store? Or have you been here before?" Simple question.
Have you ever been to our salon before? I love that.
Exactly. And I said, "Actually, this is my first time." And she said, "Well, welcome. I want you to know that," the next thing she said was, "Are you here because of a special occasion?" I thought, wow, that's just so cool that she knew to go there first. And I wasn't that particular day. And so then she said, well, today we're sampling our red velvet bundt cake. Feel free to enjoy that. And then I'd like to take you through our menu. And she did. And she said, well, on the bottom are the individual bundt cakes. Then we have an 8 to 10 people, or 6 to 8 people, and then we have a 10 to 12 size. And we also have minis, which to my eye look like cupcakes, single serving. And she said, we have these flavors available, and she went through the flavors. And I just thought, you know, that took maybe 3 minutes, but it definitely was a surprise and delight from the time I walked in that door until I had made my selection. So just a little kind of personal story that was timed well for this particular webinar, e-learning, and again, it's the simple stuff. Surprise and delight is easy, but it has to be intentional.
What I love about that, there was no secret service there. That wasn't, hi, how are you? And then just browse and let us know if you need anything, because that's what the unspoken says is, let us know. We are here, but we're not going to talk about anything unless you ask. What she did is she leaned in, put herself out there, talked about it, wanted to know what kind of guest do I have in front of me, a first-timer or someone that's been here before. And if they've been here before, we've scripted them the first time so I don't have to do that whole script. If they haven't been here, I need to go into my welcome script. And then she talked about her flavors and the features of the day. My goodness, couldn't we be doing that in our salons too? Are we featuring something, or are we celebrating something today? Is there always something to say? Could it be our product of the day, or our guest of the day? There's so many things you could do, but to think we're going to surprise and delight in silence, we're very mistaken. So let's get started. We want to talk about some of the must-haves that have to be in place to create a surprise and delight environment. The first one is you have to have a servant's heart. You have to be someone that is really wanting a guest to enjoy an experience, want them to be served by you. And there's people that just aren't born with that gene. There's ones that understand what that is. And you can see what kind of host or hostess they are. Almost immediately you can feel their warmth and sincerity. Those are the kind of people that we have to have on staff to make sure that we can pull this kind of service off. We're meeting with two owners the other day that are getting ready to make some changes in their business. And one of the things that they said is we inherited some staff and we couldn't be more opposite in our approach to service. And because of that distance, they're probably going to have to separate ways with them. And that's so true. You have to make sure your staff's on the same page and understanding what a servant's heart entails and what the responsibilities of a servant's heart is. Going through all of this with Mark having cancer and going through surgery, we have been surrounded by a lot of medical caregivers, many of them. And we've been, quite frankly, surrounded by nurses that have a great servant's heart. And we've been surrounded by people that never even looked at Mark and looked at the screen when they were asking him for information, and never proof of listening, just And I'm not debating if both nurses passed their test and were knowledgeable in the medical field, but obviously some realized they had someone in a lot of pain in front of them and they needed to step up to help him ease his anxiety. And when they weren't looking at him or they weren't listening to him or showing proof of listening and connection, it created more anxiety for him. And that was really, really tough to witness. And I just wanted to say, this is not that difficult to show your patient that you're in here for him, not just for medicine. Steve, do you want to add on that at all?
Well, I think that servant's heart. I mean, clearly, I saw the same as you did, Terry, while we were watching the the nurses and technicians and whatnot working with Mark during his hospital stays. And I would agree. There were people that were brilliant at it, and there were people who could have been in those classroom environments where they're working on cadavers, or robots, because there were people that just didn't see the person. And
That's right.
and you know what? I mean, in all honesty, that happens in businesses. I caught myself yesterday. I was in a meeting with actually a team member, and afterwards, I thought, I was here, but I wasn't here. I could have done so much better in that conversation because I was still wrapped up in what I was doing before she came in, and my mind was still there. And so I listened and I heard and I understood what it was that she said, but what I lacked was the servant's heart. I lacked the personal compassion and understanding that I think I would normally have in a meeting such as that. And so I just think that, first of all, there's people who have never even entertained having a servant's heart. They think that their job is to allow other people around them to have a servant's heart. And I think that we do have to find in our staff or enkindle in them or find a way to bring that out of them and show them how much better, how much quicker they can grow, how much better their day goes when they truly do have their eyes focused on that one guest at a time, the one who's there right now, giving them the best that they have, and finding little ways to surprise and delight. And I'll give you another example. In a meeting with a salon, I found out that the salon owners, a silly little thing, but I found out that one of the salon owners absolutely loved cherry Twizzler, the little nubbins, the little ones. And every once in a while, I'll throw a package of those in an order that's going out to her, a full-size package of them. And not with a note, not with anything. They just, and they get it. She knows. She opens it. She laughs. Sometimes she calls. Sometimes she tells her salesperson, her consultant, hey, Steve sent those out again. But it's really just for that moment of surprise, that moment of, I noticed. I was paying attention. And so what are those ways that in your salon and in your efforts with all your service providers, stylists, estheticians, spa techs, and whatnot, can you notice? Because that's really where this all came from. One of the best companies that we've studied for a long time is Ritz-Carlton, and it's every person, including the maids, responsibility, the people that make up your rooms, to record information about your stay when you're staying in their hotels that can allow them to surprise and delight you on a future visit. And so it's really proved to, it is the way of extraordinary service right now, but it has to be planned. It has to be instilled in people. It has to be motivated and then recognized too. We have to recognize when somebody's doing that for our guest.
So what we have to have in place is the servant's heart and a culture that expects that. And that's something you need to teach over and over and over again. And if someone is more committed to their phone than they are to their team and their customer, there's going to be a breakdown right off the top. Steve never once said that the young girl, nothing but cakes. And how old was she, Steve?
She was in late teens, maybe
so
early 20s.
And you know what? That what they're teaching her right now, those disciplines are going to take her, and she'll have a keener understanding and a keener eye because of it. So we have the servant's heart. There's specific steps that you have to have in a service environment that wants to wow the customer. It can't be willy-nilly. It can't be generic. For example, I said to an owner recently, tell me about your shampoo. Is it one of your signature services? He goes, it is for me, but not the rest of the staff. I said, okay, teach me how you would teach your signature shampoo. And he said, well, it's all touch. And he proceeded to went on about a conversation about the strength and the touch of the type of shampoo. I said, okay, now quantify it. What do you want said before the shampoo starts? Do you want a welcoming ritual of any time? How long do you want the shampoo to last? How do you want to drape the guest after the shampoo? How do you want to communicate with the guest after the shampoo? He goes, I never even thought of all those steps. Even though they're done, they're not done consistently, and they're not done consciously. So you have to have, when you're going to wow the customer, you have to have that kind of structure. And some of you say, well, it's a shampoo. Yeah, well, it's a haircut. Well, it's a greeting. Well, it's talking about product wardrobe and professional recommendation. It's talking about the consultation and the image profile in very specific ways to our salon. These are the specific steps. If you wing it, if it's casual, the outcome will be less than what you're looking for. The next one is you have to have a very high pay attention factor, and Steve alluded to that already when he talked about the fact that that salon, he noticed her candy of choice. You have to be paying attention, and you almost have to make it a contest in your own mind. How many things can I bring out that I didn't know yesterday about our guest in the salon? And how am I going to ask questions to get greater answers so we can surprise them? I think the next one, a high hustle factor, is we've got to have a team, and they kind of go together, a team commitment to really be on our game. Not just a grand opening team that looks great for 90 days, but someone who absolutely understands this is the kind of hustle we have to have in creating this kind of beautiful service environment. I love going to a restaurant. Go ahead.
The thing that I'm thinking about, Terry, while you're talking about these steps is I could almost put with intent after each one of these must-haves, because we do have to have that intention to surprise and delight. We do have to have that intention to have them be the most important to us at this point. So all of these steps, high hustle factor with the intention of wowing a guest, team commitment with the intention of being extraordinary at what we do, separating ourselves, differentiating ourselves from any other salon experience that they've ever had. So all of these things have to have that underlying intention, which really is tied to your culture, the culture of your business.
When you look at the team commitment, it really takes a village to pull this off. And one person not doing this, and it's going to look sloppy. We went out to dinner, and I was in Scottsdale last week with my good friends, and we went out to dinner, and I think it was called Steak 44 or something like that. Everything about the way you were seated, the way they present the menu when all of you are seated, they presented the menu in the same direction. When I got up to use the powder room, my napkin was folded in a certain design when I returned. My chair was put on a different angle when I returned, so they could have an idea of what they wanted to accomplish to welcome me back to the table. Now, I don't know who did it, but I know that the closest person to that table is the one that did it at the time. They didn't wait for that server to come back and notice it. The closest person did it. That's what's powerful. And when you have that kind of environment, a team commitment that we're going to have a skillful desire and an eye for greatness. I mean, everyone knows their guests are going to use the powder room in your salons. Everyone knows your guests might need another cup of coffee, but how are you presenting that, and how are you anticipating it, and how are you looking for it? And in this restaurant, they decided we're going to differentiate ourselves by all the little things that we do. And even the way they presented the wine to the table for my friends, it was uniquely different to their restaurant. So they decided to make a signature presence of wine. And a committee must have gotten together and said, how are we going to stand out, and how are we not going to be generic, and how are we going to make it specific? And it really takes a desire to accomplish that. Even the way they presented the matches and the after-dinner drink, they kind of stacked them up. It was perfect. Everything was perfect about it, and I couldn't have told you that It could have been any better. Okay, so when we talk about what this requires, let's talk about being specific. And here's our topics, and then we'll do them one at a time. We're going to do the greeting. We're going to do the escort. We're going to do the professional pass-off. We're going to be specific dialogue, service responses, professional manners, and professional courtesies. Now, we're going to go through these one at a time, and we're going to kind of dream out loud and play with it. And I want you during this time to critique where you are in all of these. And certainly, if this wasn't just an hour, this probably could be a whole day class. There's certainly more specifics we could add to this, but these are the ones we're going to focus on today. So greeting. There is a difference. There is a difference of a generic greeting versus a specific greeting. For example, Mrs. Cowan, we've been expecting you. Hello, Terry. How nice to see you again. Hi, Terry. I will inform Steve that you've arrived. Please make yourself comfortable. Now, these aren't difficult. They're not over the top, but they're, in most cases, more that we're doing in our salons right now. Just a little bit more, like please make yourself comfortable, or how nice to see you again, and we've been expecting you. These aren't difficult. This is no different than that young lady saying, have you ever been to our store before? Is this your first visit in? And are you here for a special occasion? All of those were part of her greeting. What are your greetings? And can you make them more specific? And do you come together and say, how do we do this today? When I arrived at Steak 44 the other night, and I said, she welcomed me, welcome to the restaurant this evening. Do you have a reservation? Yes. The name under the reservation. I noticed there's 3 in their party and only 2 of you are here. How long before we might expect your 3rd guest? I mean, the dialogue was perfect. It wasn't, hey, how are you, smoking none, party of 2. It was beautiful. And you even walk differently when you follow them back to the table. It was perfect. Steve, are you there?
I'm right here.
Okay. What do you want to add to this?
Well, I think that's your first opportunity. I think that is your, as Terry said, that's your first impression. And that definitely needs to be with intention. I heard a story this week. I was talking with one of our consultants who was servicing a salon that changed hands. A new owner purchased the salon, and the new owner is spending all of their time behind the desk, and has been now for probably 4, 5, 6 months. And there's real client unrest in that salon that's rifled all the way back through the salon. And what I heard was for one main reason, and that's that the owner doesn't recognize the returning guests, doesn't know who they are, acts like they meet them for the first time every time, and they're good, loyal, long-term guests that they've seen many times. And I think, okay, I mean, I've done that in the beauty business. Sometimes the way everyone changes their hair, their look and appearance. Sometimes when you see people out of context, it can be challenging. But I think forget the circumstance and say there are guests that walk into the business that the greeting is anything but a surprise and delight. A friend of ours in Houston, Texas, had a computer system written for his business, and what it does is it populates the screen at the service desk with the pictures of the guests that are coming in next. It has a screen full of pictures of the guests that are coming in the next 10 minutes, and so that they can have these people recognize them as a returning guest versus a new guest. And so that, to me, is an effort, anyway, to surprise and delight a guest. Now, we can do it without the pictures, I think, but that energy is required to say, how can I make this? How can I make the greeting unique? And let's leave again this, and not that I've been there recently, but what is it? Cold Stone Creamery. It's so weird because all they've got kids, high school kids, young, 16, 17. You can't find anybody over 25 in that whole business unless they're on the customer side. But what they did was, no matter what they're doing, if a guest walks in, every single person behind the counter says, hello, welcome to Cold Stone Creamery. And when people leave, every person behind the counter, regardless of what they're doing, says, thank you for coming to Cold Stone Creamery. Now, they said, we're going to make an impression at the first and the last of every single visit. Now, I'm not saying that every stylist should look up and say, welcome to so-and-so salon and spa, but that intent is what's so important. How can you intend to surprise and delight every guest? How can you make them feel special in your business? I mean, quite honestly, I think of Starbucks and going through, and I went through a Starbucks yesterday, and instead of even talking to me, they handed me my beverage, and the same person was greeting a guest at the drive-through. So handed me my guest and said, hello, welcome to Starbucks. What can I get you today? And I'm thinking, you didn't even see me. And I thought, boy, Starbucks used to be extraordinary at that. They did drive-through better than anybody. And so you can have it and lose it and get it back again. Business is a constant flow of
you know what I think about? I'm reading something. I read an article. It's one of those crazy articles in a magazine, but it says, why when you're dating, you tell each other everything. Then when you're around each other for 25 years, you hardly even say how your days are to each other. Why does that happen? And that happens in business too. You get so comfortable that at first, when you first open, I mean, let's say, what's the bundt cake place going to look like in a year? If they can maintain this kind of culture and attitude for 20 years, they're going to be something really special. The Ritz-Carlton said, hey, we're not going to get comfortable with our service. We're going to continually make it better. And so it's the same thing. When you get comfortable, you get foolish. And when you get comfortable, you say less. You say less. And in the service world, when you're trying to prove that you want them as a customer, you've got to say more. And you've got to say it better. And you have to know that the customer has to see your eyes and your effort. So the next one is we're going to escort a guest now. Now, we need to walk next to the guest. We need to carry on a conversation while we're walking with them. Can it be about the weather? Sure it can be. When it was 118 degrees in Scottsdale last week, it's of course what everyone was going to talk about. Feels so good in here, thank you. And she said, isn't a great cool beverage going to feel great in just a minute? Well, yeah, because she knew where to go, and nothing was personal, but it was so polite and professional that you can have those conversations. People think there's very limited to say when you're having a surface conversation. It's not a surface. It's a service conversation with someone. So we never want to point. We never want to wave on. And we want to use expressions like, right this way, please, or allow me, or may I introduce myself? I'll be taking you back to see Steve right now. But it's so casual. It's like being in a family room versus a business. And these little touches of more polished dialogue will make a huge impact. At first, are your customers, if you want to change, going to say, what are you talking about? Who are you? And you have to be able to say, we want to never take you for granted, and we're really working on the service atmosphere we create here. The professional pass-off, Steve, you do this better than anyone, but we can't take from one to another without introducing. Mary, allow me to introduce you to Terry, and announce Mary's role in the salon. And you want to say, Mary, I'm so excited to introduce you to Terry, because you want to say, Mary's going to be delivering our signature shampoo today. Don't allow Mary's role to not seem important to you as the person that's doing the introduction. It's going to create great team respect, as well as the customer, the guest, realizing how you honor each other.
Well, and I think that's really the important part of that is that a servant's role can either be significant or it can be perceived as a menial task. And I think it's the responsibility of the person passing that guest off to add dignity to the person who's taking that guest next. So, for example, if it is to someone who maybe is an understudy or someone who's taking care of the signature shampoo for you today, that's not just a shampoo person. That's not just a cleansing technician. That's another human being that you're putting in their hands. And so to introduce Mary is important and say, you know what, my guests are loving their time with Mary. And so I think that's important. I think it's also then important to tell Mary who your guest is for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's an opportunity to prove that you listened during the image profile. It's an opportunity to prove that you have retained and that we do things differently as a result of those image profiles, as a result of the questions that we ask and the answers that we get. And it's also, I mean, quite frankly, if it's a guest you enjoy, it can be something as simple as, Mary, you are going to love Terry. She's a load of fun, and she's got great hair. Enjoy your time. Terry, enjoy your time. Mary, enjoy your time. I'm getting ready to work. Can't wait to see you back at my chair.
And I love, we're saying shake hands, so Mary should extend her hand and say, pleasure to meet you. And then you say, you're in great, skillful hands. I added that last night because I thought, that's another, instead of just you're in great hands, you're in great, skillful hands. I thought that was really something I would enjoy saying if I was passing them off to somebody else. And then always say, enjoy. Oh my gosh, go enjoy. And really, isn't there times you wish you were in the shampoo bowl for 15 minutes to relax? Gosh, go enjoy it. Because if it's that good, they will. Specific dialogue is when we're talking about these services and what needs to be said during the image profile, the signature shampoo, our signature services, which could be we celebrate color and we're an 80% color house, our service enhancements, our service add-ons, and our service upgrades. All of these need dialogue, and I'm going to give you an example of some of them at the end on the last slide. But you have to, when you look at the image profile, some do it really well, some rush through. Is there a difference between a brand new guest and one that we've been servicing for a long period of time? Of course there is. But we always have to put out the option of change every guest, every time. And I think sometimes that's lacking when we listen to Conversation in the Salon. If our shampoo isn't something that we really celebrate and we know it's the guest's favorite part, I think we're missing an opportunity here. And when you look at the shampoo and the time frame, oh, heck, I'm just going to tell you now. I went to a salon with the girls. So we went to have pedicures, and 3 of us are lined up, and they had a menu. And they had the regular pedicure, something else pedicure, then they had the essentials pedicure, spa essentials pedicure. And then they had 5 more after that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what's the difference? I've never seen a salon with 7 or 9 pedicures on it. The difference between the first one, you had a 7-minute leg massage. The next one was 10. Then it went to 12 to 15. Then it went to 20. Then it went to 30 minutes. And how they did their service enhancement on the and the add-on and the upgrade, it kind of encompassed all 3, was the time of the massage. Couldn't you, if they're doing that with a pedicure, couldn't you do that in the shampoo house too? Couldn't you say, for this is included, let's say it's 7 minutes of neck, shoulder, and scalp massage. And for extra, for 10 minutes or 15 minutes extra, you're going to pay that service. Would people do it? Sure they would, if they knew it was an option. And that's when people have these options, but no one ever knows about it. Or if someone says, can you massage me for a little bit longer? We'll do it, but what happens if it was a menu option and someone said, gosh, it's my favorite part, and I'll pay an extra $20 to have 15 extra minutes, whatever the case may be. But I was really amazed at that's the only difference between that service was the length of the leg and foot massage. I think we could accomplish the same thing in the wash house. So just wanted to bring that up. So now, when you look at the image profile and talking about change and what your recommendations are, and we need to talk about the categories of grooming and color and product performance. All those have to be put into the image profile. It's not just about the look, it's about everything that would be responsible for that. The shampoo, I kind of touched on it. The signature services, what are they in your salon? What are you known for? And we need to say that. In this, Steve, we found another place that we like. It's a new place called the Cookie Jar, right? And the Cookie Jar is a new cookie shop that's in our area, and they have 5 signature flavors that will be there as staples every day. And I think it's snickerdoodles and peanut butter and chocolate chip or whatever, 2 more. But then they have days when you walk in that you don't know what the cookie special will be that day, a different flavor. Could we create flavors? Could we create scents? Could we create different things? And Robert Cromings, he did a different kind of rinse with sparkling water. And I think they did a champagne rinse one time for someone who wanted service enhancements. Dreaming big, huge. If the customer knows about it, remember, the customer should never have to speed us up. They should only have to slow us down, meaning you need to talk about what your offerings are and then make a decision. But they shouldn't have to ask you what your offerings are. So the service add-ons, what can we add on? And I think a big thing right now for service add-ons and service upgrades is, and I've made no mistake about this in my past, so I'm going to talk about it again, is I hate getting color because sitting for 40 minutes doing nothing while color is processing, to me, is a ridiculous waste of time for me. But if you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, whether it's a polish change or a mini facial or waxing, and you can get that done so I'm not thinking about color processing, those are service add-ons and those are service upgrades. And I think that can be an easily accomplished thing. And we've got salons that are doing processing menus now because that's an opportunity for dollars to come into the business that the guests would be willing to spend because it's time they're already in there. Steve?
Absolutely. I was just looking for something that I saw in Robert's salon, and I don't know that it actually fits right here, but I was just in Robert's salon last week, and what I loved was he's talked about the treat receipt from Starbucks, where you come back in the afternoon and you receive your favorite beverage at $3 off or half price or what have you. Well, he's found a way to incorporate into the guests scheduling their next appointment. And so what he has is at the top it says, and it's right on the service desk, the reception desk, it says, come back soon, pre-treat receipt. Pre-schedule your next experience and receive complimentary Avapui retreat add-on service. And I like that. That to me is the potential for surprise and delight. They don't know what it is, but it gives you a reason. It gives your service desk, your service provider, a reason to draw attention to setting up their future reservation. And it gives them a gift when they come back in of that exceptional retreats as an add-on for free. So those are just little things sometimes that can that I think can make a big difference.
So how are we going to talk about all of these things and not make it sound like, do you want to have anything done while your color is processing? You can't say it that way. You have to have scripting, just like the young lady did with the bun cake. Many of our guests are enjoying express services during their processing time. I'd like to present you with our processing menu. What's so hard about that? And it's the difference between you want anything done, like anyone save room for dessert, versus talking about the beautiful mocha cake or the red velvet cake or our signature cheesecake. I mean, it's
so relative to that. How could you make that even more? Just I think that sometimes we could, if we wanted to, use technology to help us make that presentation. I would love to see, if I've never had one of those processing menu services.
Yeah, you could do
what
a
are
YouTube
they?
1 minute.
Absolutely.
Service of it.
Absolutely. It's kind of the difference when we were in one hotel, and sometimes they'll show you just a map, a one-dimensional map of what the room looks like. And we were in one hotel where they pulled up their iPad and they showed you an example of each of the rooms.
Yeah, versus
with beautiful pictures and what the views are. You could do a 360 to see what the view was of it, and it's just a huge difference.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's going to upgrade based on the one-dimensional map, but I think a lot of people may upgrade, or at least save me a trip to the room to see that it's a room that's unacceptable. How can we do that? That's one of those things. How good are we as Salon people at converting experiences that feel great outside our industry and bring them back in?
Well, and the beautiful thing is, how often do we say when you check into a hotel, what's our view going to be? Oh, you're overlooking the pools. Well, that doesn't really give me a visual. I kind of have an idea, but when this young lady said, we're thinking about room 316 for you, here's the layout, here's photos of the room, here's a picture of the view, or 712, which one would you? Okay, now we're seeing the room, we're seeing the view, and it was unbelievable that she had all of those on her iPad ready to present to us during the check-in. Loved it.
Really was a wow. It was a surprise and delight, no doubt.
We just looked at each other. And then I'm thinking right now, okay, why don't we have all those things at PSC? Okay. So now the how-tos, service responses with guests. Remember, what do you always say, Steve? Doesn't matter how smart you are, it's who goes to market with it, right?
That's right.
Even
That's
if you
that
say,
gets
yeah,
paid.
I thought of that. Even if I thought of that, doesn't matter if you didn't go to market with it. So then, see, after I get done teaching, I'm irritated with me for the rest of the day. So service responses with guests. You teach your staff how to say these things naturally. My pleasure, certainly, absolutely. We'd be happy to. Yes, of course. Allow me. I would be happy to. Are you comfortable? Is there anything you need? How is the temperature? Please relax and enjoy. You want to give them a list of service responses that, and you keep adding to it, these make us sound more connected and committed to our customer. These are polished phrases that say more versus sure.
Yeah, even if someone kind of is winging it and says something brilliant that sounds great one time by accident, that can
happen. Put it in, yep.
But doggone it, that's where we really need to have our. That's where the intention comes from. That's where wanting that to be there every single time and not happen by accident. A guest has the, I think they have the right to be serviced at an extraordinary level.
I just keep thinking, what else could we say here? And then when you go to the next one, the next one is, this was service responses with guests, and this is professional manners with team. You're going to see some of the words that are the same. Are we saying certainly to each other? Are we saying absolutely? I'd be happy to. Terry, can you get this for me? Of course. Thank you, and please. And service, it should say service in silence. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Meaning, I walked by, I just take it. I don't have to say, hey, can you take these coffee cups back? I'm so focused on my walk up to the front that I'm scanning the business and see what I can do to help a teammate, and I can service in silence to make our business and our team better. And when a guest hears these kind of manners, like the other day I was at Houston's with the girls, and we really like the chain Houston's, and they also have a restaurant called R&D, which is their research and development for Houston's, and it's almost a prototype restaurant that's always open, but it's the one that's R&D, which I think is so cool. And I must have had 12 service providers at our table, all in the same uniform, hostesses in the same uniform, hostesses saying the same dialogue, busboys saying the same dialogue. And I thought, no wonder you can bank on a successful future, because they're not robotic. They're just polished. They're very polished. And that makes a difference. But how many times do we have to say, hey, will you get this for me? Hey, and versus using these professional manners with each other so the guests witness how we honor each other as well. Professional courtesies. I mean, when you have all of this going on as well, these are almost necessary givens, but it's also how you present it and how you administer it. Wrap services, do you have coat service? Are you taking their coats, and how are you getting them back to them? And is it in an organized area? Does the closet look good that it's going in? Or are we using ways to identify whose coat is it? Are we tagging them? Are we numbering our hangers and putting that number on the service ticket? What are we doing to offer wrap service? And are we doing it all the time? Or are we doing it only when we have time? And when that front desk gets bombarded, does that mean the guest is hanging their own coat up? Beverage service, boy, I'm a big advocate of self-serve. And the more that I travel or in airport lounges and stuff, and seeing that one person can absolutely make a statement on the self-service table because they're looking at it and making sure it hits the standards all the time versus walking the whole business. The same thing holds true in a salon. If you have a self-serve area, you can maintenance that and be better at it probably 99% of the time, because you're only concentrating on one area and the guests can go enjoy. Preparation for service. How are we preparing? Do we have color trays? Do we have color carts? Are we using a method of preparation? Went to the dentist yesterday, and the way he prepared for my service was so obvious, and everything lined up, knowing I knew when I walked in there he was ready for me. How are we preparing for a guest service? And the professional courtesies of sound, lighting, the scent. And when you think about service rituals, I don't know how many salons do it, but before a guest leans back into the shampoo bowl, you have an opportunity to create a welcoming ritual with them. You can use it with touch. You could do it with meditation for them, meaning just take a moment of silence and take in 3 deep breaths to start to relax. You could also do it by creating an essential oil and that they take air in, and they've got a signature oil that you want. One little drop, and now you're going to create a differential of other salons that aren't celebrating the wash house experience. And of course, the service options, always being prepared to do them should you convince a guest. The worst thing is to talk a guest into waxing and shaping their brows, only to get back there and find out the waxing machine isn't even plugged in. So we have to make sure that all these professional courtesies are in place, poised and ready to move on a dime if the guest says yes. This is one of my favorite things to think about in business, and it's not usually the bottom two. And those of you who have heard it before, it's always a great message to hear again. Most traditional thinking in marketing is the existing products and services, the bottom left-hand corner, existing products and services to existing customers. So our cutting and our color and our treatments and such. We have this menu that we're offering to existing customers that are coming in. We also have this menu, products and services, existing to new customers that we're trying to create in our community with referrals or celebrating a new hairdresser going on the floor and so on and so forth. New to existing and new to new, these are the categories that don't get enough attention, or dream time. And what new products and services do we need to add for our existing customers to feel like they're in good hands with our salon? And of course, these new products and services that we're going to bring in will create new customers for us as well. So we're going to talk about the top two. Now there's many ways that we can talk about this. Sometimes dialogue can be a new product or service, because dialogue is service. It could be launching treatments. It could be friends and family nights. It could be beauty parties where one hairdresser has the opportunity to take her top customer and say, I want to celebrate you tonight. I want 10 of your friends to come in, and we're going to do appetizers and have a little wine, and we're going to start your evening off. We're going to do some hair. We're going to celebrate. That's going to create new customers to the business, and it's a new service to that existing customer that we're saying thank you to, and that idea then will create new customers to the business. And we've got salons that are mandating hairdressers that are growing have to do this 4 times a year. Not an option. And they learn how to become great hosts and hostesses of beauty nights and styling parties. And, you know, I think about all the companies, whether it's jewelry or Mary Kay or Pampered Chef, where these women have learned how to become incredible hostesses to make noise with friends and family. And they want layers upon layers upon layers of people enjoying their product. And they're going to facilitate that by always being present. We don't do that enough in our salons. And they take their best customers and hope that they'll have parties. And then they give them a hostess gift for having these parties. Could we not do some of the same to create more traffic? I think it takes far too long to build a hairdresser because we're not putting things in place to jumpstart them after their training and after they've been celebrated to become a member on the floor. So how to find new guests is very exciting too, because how to find new ideas to surprise and delight our guests, it feels good. Now, I want to talk to you. I already talked about the nail experience when they did add-ons with the leg and foot massage, but I also did a recent wedding gift purchase from Steve and I. And at the end, usually it'll say, would you like to personalize? Steve, I haven't even told you this yet. Would you like to personalize the message that will be in the card that you're sending? It gave me 3 options. Do you want to personalize the message on the card? Do you want to leave them an audio message that you'll record that will come to them? Like, hi, this is Terry and Steve. We're so excited. Congratulations and best wishes. Do you want to leave a video to the bride and groom? Do you want to leave an e-card? And I thought, my God, that felt great. First thing I thought about, because when it feels good to you, bring it into your business. The first thing I thought about is, my goodness, when we send out a confirmation for an in-salon class, why can't we have our educator say, hi, this is Tracy. I'm going to be in your salon soon to do your class. I'm so excited. Why can't we add that on to our confirmation versus just having it be an email? And I wouldn't have thought of that if the wedding gift purchase wouldn't have asked me for that. Isn't that a great idea, Steve?
I love it. I love it.
What is,
you know, and it's easy to do.
It's not that hard. And I told Brian, I said, don't give me the answer. After I bought the gift, I went downstairs, and Neiman Marcus is the one that did this. I went downstairs. I said to Brian, don't give me an answer. I'm telling you, this just felt great upstairs, and now I want to incorporate it into PSC. And that's what happens when you go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know where I was going to put it. But it's a great thing to do. And now I'm going to put it even when I teach a class. Hi, I'm going to be there. What a way to personalize. And if you think about it, on Facebook, I don't like when someone just says, liked it. I like when they respond. And I want to see who responded, not just liked it. Someone could, you could have 540 likes, but 12 responses. You're going to look at the people liked, or you're going to read the ones that are personalized. Everyone loves personalized. And how do we personalize our thank you? How do we personalize our confirmations? How do we personalize our gratitude for them being a guest in our salon? That's what I'm thinking about. And we can even do this for our employees, for owners that are on the phone. So service idea contest. You want hunters in your team, and you want to say, who's bringing the best ideas to add to our service in 2016, to add to our team, whether it's an enhancement of our people, whether it's enhancement of our guests, enhancement of our systems, enhancement of our services. You want service idea contest or enhancement contest going on in your business all the time. And maybe that's something you add at the end of the year at your annual Christmas party or something, saying, this is one of the best ideas that came back to us this year, and could you put a price on it? Could you monetary or a gift or a weekend away, because that idea is going to pay for itself when it's a home run. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's open it up for questions, Bri. I know we don't have a lot of time, but this could be a whole day class, I think.
All right. Unfortunately, right now we don't have any questions, but if anyone does have any questions, they can use the chat window down near the bottom of their screen or bottom of their control panel. However, I do have a question for you guys.
Oh, is it because I came to you yesterday?
No, this is something completely different, actually. And it is a great idea. My question was, you talked at the beginning of the webinar about airline companies offering the one-to-one service and how it's become expected, and consistency and consistency of service being needed. So my question is, how do we have consistency of service and not have it become so routine and so expected that it's still a wow and still surprise service?
I think the best way is to not get bored with what we're doing.
I agree.
I think that once those dollars are spent on something that is consistently, when it goes from the point of
consistently good,
it's great that we do this. Now it really is a cost of doing business. Okay, it's no longer optional. It becomes a cost of doing business, and as a cost of doing business, it takes away revenue that could be spent elsewhere. And that's where the airlines really come in. Here they are with their loyalty programs, and it keeps them from doing other things that could maybe even benefit the flyer more or better, because those dollars are committed to that. And then you look at how it's gone full circle, that they've even put such restrictions on that now they've gone backwards in customer loyalty, because these people have in good faith been a customer. They've gained points, they've gained miles, but they can't spend them when they want to, the way that they want to. And so now people are mad at the airlines. So that entitlement has become worse.
And because they have these loyalty programs in place, Brian, sometimes it's why they get so top heavy in their loyalty program. Now I have to charge you for your bags, or I'm no longer going to have food service on the flight, because this cost of doing business got so top heavy, it restricted me from being able to do more for you in other ways. And the other thing is if you had to say what would make the airline experience a home run for everyone, I would tell you it would be more leg room, more seat room. And if those two things could be accomplished and not at the expense of the flight price, meaning, one of the reasons we fly Southwest is because of all the ways that they don't nickel and dime you, but their flights are full. I haven't been on a flight in how long that it hasn't been 100% occupied. But when we have flown other airlines, they don't have that, and we can take a whole row to ourselves. What's better? What's really better in that? To have more seat room and pay $60 per bag, or fill on a flight, have the cost go down, and have my bags fly for free. So now you have to weigh it all out. And
so for example, to take a look then just within our industry, let's say that there has to be a baseline service that is consistent and that we can duplicate. But then this whole concept of surprise and delight is, what other things can we celebrate? Are we creative enough to come up with other things? For example, if you have a guest that comes in 10 times in a year, 5 times in a year, on their 5th time in, do you acknowledge it? Do you recognize it? Do you give them a $5 or $10 Starbucks card?
Do you ring the service bell? Do you give them a Starbucks card to say get a beverage on your way home?
Do you give them a free wash house service? Do you
do 5 extra minutes in the? Do you do 5 extra minutes in the wash house? Because this is your 5th visit this year.
You can do it with a color guest. If a color guest schedules and comes in as frequently as they need to, well, maybe you've got some extra wow that you can do for them. It's when they hit a certain dollar amount in take-home purchases, we celebrate that. And just look for opportunities to surprise and delight the guest. Not something that we're going to put on a poster. And that's probably the only challenge I have with the pre-treat receipt at Robert's Salon is that now they're setting up their next reservation so that they can get that, instead of taking the people who do set up their next reservation and giving them that when they come in the next time as a surprise, as a thank you.
I get color every 3 weeks. That's 18 times a year. Maybe I'm in the, you have bars that they all have their mugs, right? Because they're frequent drinkers every night in the bar. And here's my mug up there. I'll drink out of my mug. But what about the Color Club? Because I'm in there so much. What can we do for them? And maybe all Color Club customers get a paraffin treatment in their mitts while they're processing. Because that's really nice for a woman to have that kind of service. So we limit ourselves based on what is versus dream about what could be.
Mm-hmm.
So we're good. Brian, anything you need from us? Anything on the screen?
There is one question from Vicki Court. What would help to track and reward team members for their ideas and contributions?
Well, I think we keep a board on it. I think that what we do is we could also give credit to a new service, wow, compliments of Tracy, and we all know. I mean, when we present these, they've got to present these ideas in a weekly meeting or in a powwow so we can give credit to the person, or we can even committee it. But we need to keep track of it, and you probably could find something in your software that could do that. Like notes, you have color formulas on a customer's record. Why not take an employee's record and put their ideas on there? It's not a formula, it's their service ideas, and there you could track it right in there. Good? Steve, did we wear out our welcome?
Thanks, Vicki, for the question. It looks like Anthony's got a question. I think the only thing I'd add to that, how do you track it and how do you reward it? That depends on the salon. You may want to give them some in-house bucks, decide how much that they could use to buy their personal product. Maybe it's
a tool. What did this idea bring back to you?
That's right. It depends on how good the idea is, too.
How big is the idea? You might even want to buy them a pair of shears. I don't know, but let's find out. I mean, what's that idea that came to you? And get them excited about it. And remember, when it feels good, and that's when we talk about being absolute ambassadors of witnessing service everywhere we go. So when we take their idea, we can bring it back. So we're going to record this afternoon. We're going to record Look Up, and so expect to receive an email from our company. Maybe I can even, if Brian would even maybe allow us to put a message on it, that'd be kind of cool. And that'll be going out, and we'll get that done this afternoon.
Okay.